Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and this is part 2 of our music theory for drummers. What you heard me play there were a series of chord progressions, some tonal, some not. But I played lots of types of chords, suspensions, minor sevenths, major sevenths, dominant 13ths. And that's going to be our subject for the next few videos, is I'm going to teach you about chords. This is normally the second thing that I teach after intervals and the notes and the basics. A lot of people teach scales and keys, but I don't do it that way. I teach chords because I feel like that's the most important thing that drummers can learn right away. And normally my students relate to that pretty strongly. So I'll teach the basic chords and then I'll teach them voicings. And then the scales, if they don't know those already, some don't, will come easier after you know your chords, because I think of the chords as an outline for everything and the scales fill that in. So let me put these other two mallets down. And we'll talk about four mallets on another video, but that's a good thing to do obviously when you play chords. So we'll start simple and we'll just start with triads. So a triad is a 3-note chord. And if you play the octave above, that's a 4-note chord, but it's the same note as the first note. So this is a triad. So that's a C major triad. So it's C, and then the major third, which is E. We learned this in our previous video, so if you haven't watched that, look at the interval video. So it's a major third, and then a perfect fifth, and then the octave. Now that fifth is going to stay common in most of the chords we're going to do today, except when we start doing diminished. So then it'll be flatted. But for now, we're going to keep that perfect fifth, and we're just going to change the third. So if I take that major triad, C, E, G, C, and I just move that third down one half step from E would be E flat, and I change that, it sounds like this. And that's a minor triad. So all I'm doing is changing one note, and that's the third. All right? So the triads are a good thing to start with. And the way I have my students practice these is we'll just do, maybe on marimba or vibes, we'll just do simple inversions. So we would go just the root position. And then they'd start on E. So that's the first inversion, and then the second inversion on G. And don't worry about running out of notes. You know, you might, then you can just go down the octave. So those are two inversions. Now the inversion is what that chord starts on. So first inversion would be that chord C major starting on E, because it's the second note of the chord. So that's E, G, C, E. So it's basically the same notes, just turned around. And the second inversion would be starting on G, which would be G, C, E, and G. Okay? So those are inversions. And that's the first thing we do to get my students to see the keyboard clearly. That's important. Then we talk about, now again, I don't want to jump too fast because this might take a few weeks to get all the different chords, major chords. So there's a lot of them. I mean, you do F, then F sharp, then G, then A flat or G sharp, and then A, So you do all your different triads in every key. It's always important to transpose everything into every key. You're not just going to play in C all the time. So that's what we do. So in other words, we would do this. And so on. So I'm playing chromatically every single triad, and I'm transposing up a half step. So that's one way to do it. You can also do the circle of fifths. So doing that, you just do your every fifth and you jump up. That's another way to do it. But it's fine to do it chromatically that way. So that's step one. All right, and again, take your time. That might take you a few weeks, maybe a month to learn all those, but it's important to do these in order. So then you do that with your minor triads, like we just did before I showed you that. So in other words, you're doing the same notes, but you're just flatting that third. So after you get your major and minor triads down in all keys, then you're going to start working on your sevenths. So the seventh and the third, as we said in that first video, the interval video, are the most important notes that you're going to play. And I call those the guide tones because that's what determines what quality your chord is. So it could be major, and if it's a major chord, it's got a major third and a major seventh. It could be dominant, and if it's dominant, it's going to have a major third and a minor seventh. If it's minor, it's a minor seventh, have a minor third and a minor seventh. If it's diminished, it has a minor third and a minor seventh, but it's a diminished. So if something's diminished, it's all minor thirds like this. You know, that's the soap opera Tune In Next Week chords, the mystery chord, okay? Diminished chords and scales are really, really common and important. So it's important you don't skip those. So here's the 4 families you need to know. You're going to do major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, and diminished 7. And there's others, there's lots of things, but for right now, those 4 are the best things for you to work on. And let's go over today the steps to doing that for your 7th chords. So again, we've already learned 3 of these notes because we've learned our triad. Now we're going to take away that top octave and substitute the 7th for that. So we'll start on C, okay, middle C, and let's start with minor. So we're going to do C, and then the minor third is E flat, and then the perfect fifth, which is going to be the same for most of these, is G, and then the minor 7 is a B flat. Now it's the minor 7 because it's a whole step below the octave. Here's the octave and B flat. So here's the chord. It's really pretty. I love minor 7ths, okay? Now, you can invert that. In other words, like we did first inversion, we'll be starting on E flat. And then we're getting into some impressionistic kind of Debussy, Ravel. They did a lot of 13th chords, 9ths, and we're going to get to all that. But those chords were inverted. So a lot of times when you play in jazz, you're not going to want to play the bass note because the bass player is playing the bass note. So if you play vibes or piano, you're not sitting there playing the bass note, you know, because that's already being played. So what you do is for your voicings, you're going to start on your 3rd or your 7th, which is really important. So, you know, those 2 notes, again, I keep saying it, 3rd and 7th are the most important notes. You could even practice those by themselves where you're doing, you know, the 3rd and the 7th of C minor is E flat and B flat, and just do this. You know, play around the keyboard, play up and down, get the visualization in your head of these notes. So that's C minor, once again. And I'll put it on the screen here. And then you need to learn that in all keys. It's really important. All right? Then next, I teach dominant chords. So the dominant is different than the minor in that it has a major 3rd, like this. Okay, so you're going C, E, which is the major 3rd now, because remember, minor was E flat. Then G again, perfect 5th, stays the same. And then we're still doing our minor 7. So that's a dominant 7 chord. Okay, and again, all keys. Next, we have a major 7 chord, which is a major 3rd, and now a major 7. So the 7 changes for the first time, and that goes up a half step to B natural. So that's a major 7 chord, and once again, transpose that into all keys. We don't need to do all the keys today. You just need to work on that. Now, one thing that I find really useful for a lot of my students is we make flashcards, or I should say they make flashcards of just index cards, anything really. You could do it on your computer. But when I was growing up and I was learning all this stuff, I made a big pile of flashcards with maybe 100 different chords on there. You know, I can't remember how many there were, but I know it was a pile this big. And I'd mix them all up and I'd pull one out and I'd play it. And I'd play that particular chord in every inversion. I do a little improv on it. You know, I'll give you a little example. If I was going to do C minor 7 with an improv. You know, whatever you might do, just mess around. It doesn't matter what it sounds like. You might want to put your metronome on 2 and 4 and just, you know, play like that. But it's good to improvise as much as possible because that's what you're going to be doing eventually. And just pick that chord. If it's F minor 7, all right, just those 4 notes and play a little improv on there. That's great. So you got that flashcard, you pull it out, and then when you feel good about it, put it away, pull out another one. And that's how you learn all these. You just need to know them right away. You can't be thinking about them, or, you know, they just have to come immediately, because when you're reading a chord chart, there's no time. It's pretty fast, all right? And these are things that I've even used in symphony orchestras where I can read, you know, chord charts. A lot of times people in orchestras can't do that, so I've played vibes and done that kind of thing in that situation. So the next one after major that I teach, major 7, now remember it's this, C, E, G, B. I'll teach diminished, and that's all minor thirds. And there's only 3 of those because they cycle. So if you have all minor thirds, here's what happens. C, E flat, G flat, A, and then another minor third, we're back to C. So okay, so what happens is C diminished is the same as E flat diminished. Okay, and that's the same as G flat diminished. And that's the same as A diminished. So there's a couple ways to practice. The flashcard thing is great. The other way you can do it is just pick a key. So let's say we're going to do F. So we take F and we do minor. And then we do dominant. And then we do major 7. And then we do diminished 7. And make sure you go up and down. Going down like that is actually a lot harder for most people. It's harder for me. So go up and down, because when you solo, you'll be going up and down. Once you get all those with 2 mallets, and again, that might take a while, you want to do them with 4 mallets. So the way you're going to do that is, again, inversions. So let's take F minor. So this is how we start. And then we move like this. And then we move like this. And then we move like this. And we move like this. And this. Okay, and this. Now, as you go up, that vibe is graduated. In other words, the bars get a little bit smaller. The other thing with a vibe, it uses a pedal, like we talked about in the first video, so you have to switch feet as you get up here. The reason why I want you to use 4 mallets, well, first of all, be able to hear all the notes at once, which is great. The other thing is it takes a lot of kind of aerobics to play these things, a lot of twisting. So this, and then you'll see the motion there, and then the motion there. So what I'm doing is I'm just moving my body like this, but I'm keeping my foot on the pedal. And the same thing goes for marimba. Even though there's no pedal for a marimba, you do want to move like this. And you want to not stand right over it, but stand in the middle of the instrument and learn to do this. It's a little bit of a contortionist thing. Now here's where I would switch feet and then go up from there. Okay, so that's how you do that. And you need to do all your chords with 4 mallets just like that. So let's go over it again for the end of this video. So what we'll do is I'll go over each one for, a couple minutes. So here's the first one I want you to do. C minor, which is C, E flat, G, and B flat. And again, this is after we've done the triads. So like this. Okay, and all keys. And then you're going to do C dominant, and what you're changing there is the third. You're making that a half step higher, and it becomes E natural. And then the next one is C major 7, and what you're doing there is you're raising the 7th now a half step to B natural. Okay, and finally, we have C diminished. So what that is, it's all minor thirds. So it's C, E flat, G flat, A, and then you start again. All right, so those are our basic chords, and we need to do those in all keys. The next step after this, the next video we're going to do is voicings. And now this gets pretty difficult. And again, like I said earlier, you're going to start on your 3rd or 7th. So I'll just give you just a couple minutes on that, and then we'll call it a day. So let's say I wanted to do a C minor 7, but I want to start on the E flat, and I want to leave the root out. So let me tell you the notes that you could use. You definitely need the 3rd and the 7th. That's really, really important. So we know we have to have those. In this case, the 3rd is E flat and the 7th is B flat. So you're going to start on that E flat and voice it like this, instead of this, because the bass player is playing that C. So, and now you're playing that root on top still. Now, ideally, you're not going to play that root at all. So what you can do is use the 9th. The 9th is the same as the 2nd. So what comes after C is D. So that's the 2nd or the 9th. Okay? So what would happen is you'd substitute that C, you'd make it a D, like this. Okay? And then we have a C minor 9 chord. So that sounds like this. That's another inversion starting on B flat, which is the 7th. So you can start on the 3rd, which is E flat, or the 7th, which is B flat. So in minor chords, it's the 9th. In dominant chords, we'll use the 13th, which is the same as the 6th. All right, and in major chords, we'll also use the 9th. So this is a little something for you to start thinking about, because the next video is going to start getting complicated. I'm going to start talking about voicings, and I know that's what a lot of you want to learn, because you've emailed me this, and you want to be able to hear these things when you're playing jazz. So we'll do that, and then after that, we'll start working on scales and modes and things like that. So I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.